What's up, superstars? This is Caleb, aka BigM, and welcome to the Power Up Podcast. It's been a while since the last episode has been released. Usually I try to get these on a bi-weekly schedule. Yeah, this one came out a little bit later than I expected. If you are caught up and listened to last episode, you'll know that I've been trying a couple of things with the Power Up Podcast, like its format and kind of some things on my end too in terms of editing and curation and creation, just to try to see what is comfortable and what works so I can, start turning these out consistently and letting you guys hear my lovely voice talk about various gaming topics as often as possible. So before I start, let me go ahead and kind of get my plugin out the way. First off, if you want to keep up with the podcast, possibly get a topic featured on the show, just feel free to follow me at the biggest M on Twitter. So that's at the biggest M on twitter.com, folks. And yeah, like I mentioned, I'll sometimes post updates on the Power Up Podcast, but pretty much every couple of weeks I post a Twitter post where I ask for questions, and that's going to be your place to kind of drop them. And it's a 99% chance that I'll be featured on the episode because, I want to get as many questions as possible. And those usually are the most interesting segments of the show. So moving on, I do want to mention, because recently a part of the changes that I've been doing is that I've been posting the podcast to YouTube. So if you're watching there, if you just want to support the YouTube channel, go ahead, hop on over to youtube.com, look up The Biggest M and my YouTube channel with a little star, and hit that subscribe button so that you can be in tune for future episodes, and hit the like while you're at it if you like the video. That supports me very much well, and it'll just let me know that you guys enjoy the content or want more of it in general. So, and then lastly, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and drop that 5 stars. It really helps out when listening to the podcast. Dropping that 5 stars just actually does so much more than you could even imagine. And by imagine, I mean it just makes me know that you guys like it. So also gives me that dopamine because you see those juicy 5 stars on the podcast, like, oh my god. So yeah, we can kind of hop right into it. While I was kind of going through all that chilling stuff and all that, I was just taking a look, doing some more research, and just seeing how easy it was to kind of find the Power Up Podcast. And I saw that there actually are a couple more Power Up podcasts out there. I saw that there was one on Spotify, and I mean, it's most definitely a podcast. Apparently they've been going on for a while. They have like over 50 episodes along those lines. It's kind of funny. I previously, before I named the podcast, I did do a little checkup, but I didn't see too many shows. And yeah, so it was interesting to kind of see another show with the same name, but just everybody out here trying to get their podcast hustle on. A couple of the other ones I saw over on YouTube, they're now kind of defunct as they haven't posted in years, but it was kind of cool to see what other people just have the absolute 200 IQ play of naming their podcast the Power Up Podcast. I don't think I'll change my name. It was just kind of interesting. I just wanted to see, if this name was, commonly shared, because that great minds do think alike. Continuing on, though, we'll kind of hop into the first topic of the day. Enough kind of dillying and dallying around. I was just kind of biding time because it's been a while since I've recorded, so I'm just really ad-libbing a lot today. Long time since I've spoken into a mic. Well, and by a long time I mean a month, but it feels like forever when you actually hop in front of it and you see the little sound bites recording every single word you say. So, like, I was talking about stopping dilly-dallying, but I went off on another little tangent there. But like I mentioned, we'll hop into it here now. The first topic I actually wanted to touch on is kind of just some of the things that were holding back my recent inspiration to do this show. But every time I would go to try and do something different, things were just a little bit harder than it seems. Like, I would try to record with a different software. Like, right now I'm using Audacity, as that's just free and easy to kind of pick up and use. But to have like a guest on the show, it would probably be more optimal to use something like OBS or some other type of recording software. I mean, if you guys have any other suggestions, feel free to kind of comment them if you're watching on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter if you're listening on any other platform. But pretty much through my research, I was looking, and OBS is a pretty good way to kind of record audio, especially not specifically the call, but like if you're getting audio from someone else on a call Like recording the desktop audio on OBS seemed like kind of the way to go, but through my testing, it was a little bit harder to kind of get a hang of and get the audio sounding how I wanted it to. So I kind of went back to the drawing board on that. And in the meantime, I was thinking of doing like a cool episode of Power Up Podcast where I did just did a tier list for the episode. Not really going over the usual topics, but just doing a tier list, going over my thoughts of every single character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it was looking pretty fresh. I had the script all read up, but before I even got a chance to record, Steve was announced, and while I was working on it, Steve ended up getting dropped, and I was like, okay, well, not everything went out the window in terms of my feelings on characters, but like there was a whole new balance patch, so I feel like I should, put that in the back pocket for now, and maybe come out with a Power Up Podcast tier list episode another time. It's very unfortunate that didn't come to fruition because I was kind of hyped for it. It was really fun to kind of just chalk up my thoughts and ideas about the characters onto a script. And I would most definitely like to hear or see the reactions of everybody after that episode drop. But alas, it did not come to fruition. But we'll just kind of keep on chugging on. I mean, this recent 9.1 patch has brought us a lot of interesting things. I'll kind of talk about some of the stuff, specifically Steve, the new character added to the game, a little bit later. But other than that, yeah, I just wanted to catch you guys all up so that you're up to speed with me. And yeah, we'll head on to our next topic. And before I talk about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, even though I had the perfect segue to go into it, we're actually going to talk about Melee. Yeah, so, Super Smash Bros. Melee, that 20-year-old game that's, older than probably a lot of people playing Ultimate. Yeah, I want to talk about it because it is kind of thriving right now. If you don't keep up with Melee, I would heavily suggest if you enjoy like Smash Bros gameplay, just like the general idea of Super Smash Brothers, where you have a platform fighting game, the movement and all that, and you just like fast-paced action, I would most definitely suggest watching some Melee. You could, whether it be just VODs of iconic tournaments or tuning into the Slippy League, which is the first thing I kind of want to talk about, because the Slippy Championship League is an online championship series of sorts that's going on right now for Melee, because they have implemented rollback netcode into their online play. A lot of pro and top players, agree that just the game feels really good, and it's like the next closest thing to a CRT, and it's not like Ultimate where you visibly have almost double frame delay. No, it apparently feels very silky smooth and almost near perfect. And due to that, they were able to conjure up a bunch of great online tournaments, and they all kind of culminate here with the Slippy Championship League. So yeah, like I mentioned, it's kind of like a championship series. It's a 4-week spanning kind of project. There's 4 separate weeks of different little tournament brackets that play out, and it's been going on 3 weeks strong so far. The only hiccup is that as of recently, HBox has dropped out of the Championship League. He's one of the more prominent players, former #1 Melee player before COVID hit. And yeah, so he's been having a tough time kind of adjusting to the Wi-Fi era of Melee. But, he didn't leave because he did get upset week 2 and got dropped down to Division 2. I guess I should kind of explain how the divisions work, but I'll finish my thought here before I kind of move on to that. Pretty much HBox, former #1 Melee player, he was, playing in the championship Slippy League. Not many people had high hopes. People really expected him to kind of get upset. HBox is kind of the token villain of the Melee scene, as he plays one of the slower, kind of campier characters in Jigglypuff. And, his offline play didn't really transition well into online play. A lot of top players are saying it's because he doesn't grind the game as much as many of the other top players currently, or HBox himself says there's a lot of factors and his heart just isn't in Melee right now, as his live streaming scene is kind of popping off really well. He's getting a lot of concurrent viewers, like by the thousands, and getting a good amount of donations and subs. And he's doing this not playing Melee, he's playing like Ultimate, playing whatever the freshest game on the block is. I see why his heart isn't in Melee, but, it's just very sad to see, the former number one just kind of fall from grace due to no offline tournaments being able to be held. It just feels, that much robbed because, I don't know, something about offline tournaments has a different feel than online tournaments, even though Melee's online is near picturesque and what any fighting game in this modern age would want. But, it just didn't pan out for Hungrybox, so he ended up dropping out. But pretty sure I'm done with my HBox tangent there, so we'll kind of get back to the Championship League itself and how it's kind of set up. So, like I mentioned, every weekend there's a small little tourney bracket format between two divisions. There's Division 1, Division 2, and then there's regulation. So Division 1, it's set up like a regular bracket of 8 of the top players from that week, and they play for their spot in Division 1 in the next upcoming week. If you lose, you drop down to regulation, and pretty much that's kind of like the losers bracket, or like the second chance for these Division 1 players to kind of keep their spot. But regulation is the, Division 2ers' chance to kind of work their way up and get into the spot. So if a Division 1 player loses, they go down to regulation. If Division 1 player wins, they move on to the bracket, hopefully to take the crown for that week. Then you have Division 2. So Division 2 is another set of 8 players, one of them being, well, I think there's a couple, but there are other Slippy certified tournaments that go on before the Slippy Championship League weekend bracket happens, and the winner of those tournaments get plopped right into Division 2 at their chance to make it into the big leagues pretty much. And so Division 2 has I think 1 or 2 qualifiers from those tournaments, and then the rest are just the kind of lower half of players from the top division, and they battle it out to kind of keep their spot in the top division ranks, so they don't have to kind of continue to claw their way back in. And if you win in Division 2, you move up to regulation of Division 1 and see if you can kind of break your way through and get into that prestigious Division 1. Or, if you lose in Division 2, you drop down to Division 2 regulation. You're pretty much prestige is on the line, as if you lose, you have to, pretty much scrap your way back through a whole nother tournament series to kind of get back into the prestigious main stage Slippy Championship League. So it's really interesting stuff. A lot is on the stake because, of course, there's great prize support with Slippy and all that. Like thousands of dollars are being given to the winners each and every week. So it's really good stuff. And honestly, if you have the time, I would say, take a look at one of their streams over the weekend and kind of engross yourself in the hype that is Melee online right now. But, that's kind of all I had to really say about that, because my relationship with Melee is that I always really enjoy Melee, but really as a spectator or even an observer, as like I mentioned, Melee is almost 20 years old, and pretty much everything that needs to be said about Melee or should be said about Melee pretty much has been said. While the meta is always progressing and all that, you have to kind of really just know Melee already to give any insightful takes. It's this weird tango where I really want to get into Melee or, commentate a Melee event, or really just get engrossed with everything going on with Melee. But, I feel like I've jumped onto the bus way too late to really, be satisfied with my level of knowledge and all that. And honestly, it is on me because I don't have the time or the drive to really engross myself in the knowledge of Melee, go through all the history books of everything that has happened before in Melee. But it's a lot. Like I said, the game's been around for 20 years and it has been ever so developing. Honestly, there's a lot going on in the Melee community right now, and it's just looking really good. So I just wanted to devote this section to Melee because it's thriving, and I'm just glad that they're doing great, because always a low-key passion of mine. So moving on, we'll go to my next topic of the day, and like I mentioned earlier, we're talking about Steve. Minecraft Steve, actually. He was introduced to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate just about a week or so ago. I'm recording this on October 27th for those that wanted to know. Steve has been out for a week or so, and since then, he's dropped in the game. Nintendo has patched out kind of one of his funny victory animations. It had a kind of dirty connotation that they removed earlier. If you want to look into that more, you can kind of just look it up. Just look up the 9.0.1 update that happens to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But pretty much a lot has kind of gone on with Steve, And I had the pleasure of pretty much Steve's release week. I was able to drive on down to Manhattan, Kansas, where the K-State Smash scene resides, and I got to, pretty much have hands-on with the character, but not on the clunky online, but juicy, glorious, sweet Smash Bros. Ultimate offline. Honestly, it was a great experience. So I just kind of want to talk about my thoughts on Steve, Minecraft Steve as a character, and also just kind of touch up on some things and some of the experiences I had over the week that I stayed over in MHK, because it was honestly really fun, and I just want to devote a section of this to the boys at MHK too, because it was really fun, and honestly, I most definitely am going to look forward to doing that again and try to visit even more friends next time, because I pretty much had games with so many people, but I'm going to try to do as much as I can whenever I get down to MHK. It's always a fun time. So getting right into it, we'll firstly talk about Steve, because that's the big ticket item. So Minecraft Steve, on release, he was garnering a lot of hate, actually. He was kind of the kiddie character, or the character that really made people kind of people who dislike the game already. They did not like Steve's inclusion, and it was kind of a funny thing to witness with a lot of people slinging hate at the character. But I actually got my hands onto the character, and while he does look out of place and so goofy, I'm not arguing those points, because he most definitely looks goofy, but he's actually really fun. Now, I will say a lot of his fun comes from just the pure uniqueness that Steve is. There has not been a Smash character, and probably not even a platform fighter character, built like this before. Like Sakurai mentioned in the directs and kind of the info videos that he had leading up to Steve's release, they pretty much had to rework the entire game to incorporate Steve and some of his kit. Like I mentioned, Steve's really fun. His uniqueness is a big part of that. And the main mechanic working around Steve that really gives him that edge, that uniqueness, that fun factor is his neutral B. It's going to be his mine/build. Minecraft Steve works on a resource bar where he has to mine the stage for resources, varying from kind of the miscellaneous kind of garbage resources of dirt, sand, wool, whatever the stage has. Then you have wood, which is kind of your reliable resource that, well, not your reliable, it's your starter resource that you kind of try to work your way up from. Then you have stone, which is more of the reliable resource that if you have it, you're not complaining. And then you have iron, which is kind of the powerhouse and fuels a lot of Steve's most potent moves. And then you have redstone, which isn't used too much, but it is used in the TNT down B. You can set up really tricky traps with that. And then you have gold, which powers up a couple of Steve's moves. And if you invest in your gold into your tools, you could also pull off some really unique combos due to the speed of gold. And then you have diamond, of course, the ever elusive material from Minecraft way back when. And it's going to just make Steve a potent powerhouse, man. He's able to mine for all those resources. It's not random, but they all have ratios that they kind of come in, so you have to kind of be mining for a little bit before you get some of these cooler resources, which is my only gripe with the character. If you run out of resources, you're a really neutered character, whether your tools break or your resource bar doesn't have much of any of the materials. The character is very neutered, and it's almost impossible to play him, which kind of sucks, because there are other resource characters in this game, Olimar, to an extent. His resources are the Pikmin. Even if he doesn't have Pikmin, you can kind of play around with him. You can find yourself able to escape tough situations and immediately refill your resource. Another resource character is Robin. Without their resources, it kind of sucks because you lose a lot of kill power, but you can still really play around with the bronze sword. Yeah, your spells are gone and there's really no replacing it, but you do get little item drops, which calls for some cool combos and all that. So Steve kind of lacks that, where when he runs out of his resource, he doesn't really get anything cool, or he doesn't have a good way to kind of get that resource back and going so he can play the game. But it's a tiny gripe that makes sense with a resource character. But other than that, he has a plethora of moves. If you do want to learn more about kind of the inner workings of Steve, I would suggest watching some of the Sakurai directs where he talks about the character in depth. I just wanted to give a basic overview before I kind of dive into all of my thoughts. Honestly, I'm kind of said a lot of what I wanted to say about this character. Just his fun due to uniqueness and like the block and resource management. He's really a big brain character, which is kind of far and few between in Smash Bros. Ultimate, even though the cast is like 70 plus characters at this point. There are, very few characters that like you constantly have to think about what you're doing as the character, not just what you want to do to the other character. I don't know. I really like that aspect of Steve. One of my pinnacle of Smash character design is when you have the freedom to kind of do what you want with the character, where you can really express yourself through the character and utilize your own play style, kind of man the character and mold them to your play style. I think that's like peak character design when, while yes, Steve is a resource character and it's like there is a optimal way to play him, quote unquote, but there are numerous ways to play him viably is the best way to kind of put it. I don't know. I really like discussing like character design and all that, so I'm most definitely down to kind of talk about some of those things in the future, but I think my thoughts on Steve are kind of wrapped up there. If you do have any questions, once again, go ahead, feel free to drop a comment or tweet at me, and I'll most definitely be down to discuss. Moving forward, though, I do want to talk a little bit about my week over playing Smash Ultimate offline. While a lot of the week was occupied by Steve Dittos the first couple of days, later on we did have a couple of more hunkered down grind sessions and some fun doubles. I mean, that week reassured a couple of things for me. Firstly, doubles is the best format, and you can't really change my opinion on that. Feel free to try, but it'll be all in vain because doubles is just amazing. And I don't know how people hate it. It's always fun to kind of just goof around with your teammate or, kind of lab out some crazy team combos. Or honestly, just to throw sometimes when the games have no stake. Just honestly had a big blast playing doubles with the guys down there. Another thing that was reassured, while it may be rust, I think, I have a firm belief after that week that Ganon is just bottom one, and there's no working a way around it. While he does have some crazy stuff, every character in this game has crazy stuff, and when you're playing with good characters, when you're playing with exceptional players, Ganon is just the worst character in the game. it's almost no... Well, there is slight contest, but I don't believe so. The only other character that is up for discussion is Little Mac, but I don't know what. Ganon just has such a tough time when your opponent knows what they're doing. While, yes, it does feel like, if you make one mistake, Ganon could kill you in 3 hits. But I feel like a lot of characters can do that, except not the 3 hits part, but if you make one mistake, they can kill you. And Ganon just has a tough time doing anything without your opponent messing up. So, I don't know. I most definitely could go in on that, but this is not the Ganon trash episode. This is the... I don't know what I want to call this one. Maybe the flavors of BigM, because honestly, we're just talking about what I want to talk about here today. As I didn't really take any questions for this one, and I do apologize about that. But this recording was a little bit more sporadic because I just wanted to get back on schedule and getting these episodes out. So yeah, just a lot of fun there. And one last thing I do want to mention before I move on to the next topic here: playing offline with the MHK boys, it made me realize that online may have actually increased my skill just a tad bit. In the Smash Bros community, we like to constantly clown Smash Ultimate Online because it is honestly a farce and it's terrible. I mean, there's no disputing that. It is not a great online system. The net play has just terrible frame delay, and even at the perfect connections, you're still experiencing double input delay. That's what I'm looking for. You're experiencing double the input delay of offline connection, and it's just really hard to play sometimes. A lot of times people in the community refer to online as like a completely different game because at some times it kind of is. Playing with double the input delay, if you don't really get the weight or gravity of that, it's completely understandable. I mean, it's like it goes from I believe it's 6 to either 10 or 12 frames compared offline to the perfect connection online. But it feels really rough. I wish I had a good example to kind of just put it into perspective. I guess maybe try, if you're watching on YouTube, just you're probably watching this at 1x speed, hopefully, or maybe you're listening to me speak super fast, but knock down the playback speed to 0.5. I believe there's also a feature of there's also the playback speed feature on, I don't know if it's Apple Podcast or Spotify, but one of the other podcasting also has this feature, but knock it down to 0.5. And that's kind of how it feels to play online compared to offline. I mean, like, it just feels sluggish, you try to press stuff and it just doesn't work. And like my words, you try to say something, you begin to say the word press, and then it doesn't come out, and then you like, blah, 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 that's exactly how online feels. Yeah, I mean, I could keep going on forever about that, but yeah, let's get back to the whole point, which was that I felt like I got better though. Even that tangent aside, I felt like I was better at the game as a whole. Kind of my morale with like my skill level. I've always thought that ever since not even COVID, kind of pre-COVID, like after the semester at K-State ended and I left K-State University, I felt like my skills had just been dwindling since then. Like I had kind of reached my peak over there after getting PR, and then after I left, I just didn't get the consistent practice like I used to, and washed up, if you could say, even though the game was only out for a couple of years. It's hard to be washed up, but I would say I would classify as washed up at that point. But yeah, so I felt like I was a little bit better, and during I was playing offline there, I was thinking about different aspects of the game. Like a lot of the times, of course, you're thinking about how do I not get hit? How do I hit my opponent? What are they doing? And that was the big one. That last question, it didn't pop up as often when I was playing games, but now and again, in my head, I would realize, okay, what is my opponent doing, and how can I punish it? That was another thing that started to pop up while I'm playing. And this is just kind of broad strokes, like literally, are those questions popping up in my head? Not all the time, no. But just for example, like let's say I'm playing against Pikachu and I'm Mario. Usually, if they're jumping T-jolting and I'm running at the T-jolt, old Caleb would think, okay, I'm getting hit by T-jolt. I just need to shield. I just need to run away. I need to stay away. And that gives Pikachu pretty much all the power and all the tools. New Caleb is now thinking, okay, how do I stop that? Not just how do I avoid the T-jolt, but how do I stop it? What's their cadence with the T-jolt? Are they jump T-jolt, jump T-jolt? Are they jump T-jolt, jump T-jolt? Like just little things like that. I started thinking about like cadence and rhythm and just repetitive patterns that my opponent is making. I'm starting to kind of catch on to those, and I feel like that was a weak spot in my game. And the main reason I think that I was able to improve that is because that's stuff that I knew I had trouble with. And when I played online, that's what I tried to work on. And I'm going all this roundabout way just to get to this point, is that while online does suck, if you do want to get better in this COVID era, play online, but with the idea in your head that I'm going to work on this, that I want to improve this aspect of my gameplay. So, for instance, another aspect of my gameplay that I felt was lacking was my combos. I felt like I dropped a lot of combos. I didn't feel like, no, I do, and I still do drop a lot of combos. But a lot of times online, I would go in, okay, I'm going to try to hit up air, falling up air, forward air, and not drop it, I'll go into games thinking like that. I'll go into games thinking about, okay, I'll try to get my grab at zero combo and make sure that I hit every hit of down air instead of, accidentally inputting a short hop and missing all of the hits, just little stuff like that. I was able to catch onto my play and what I was failing at and try to fix it by playing online, not really trying to put muscle memory and all that, because online will mess up with your muscle memory if you try to learn that way. I don't know if many people think like that when they play, if they think about working on muscle memory, but that's pretty much how I got better at Smash before. I would do things that I had issues with until my hands could just do it on their own without, thinking about it. So this COVID era, I was like, man, it's really hard to get better because I can't do that because online messes with your cadence. So then when you play offline compared to online, you're doing stuff at like half a mile a minute when you need to do it at a mile a minute, In conclusion, online does help, ? You just got to know what you're bad at. And that's kind of hard, but if you want me to go into how you can kind of figure out what you're bad at, I can, dedicate an episode to that, or kind of pull that up as a topic on the podcast. But honestly, in general, it's just like watching what you do. That's the gist of it. But then there's a little bit more things that you can kind of analyze about your gameplay that I'll almost definitely be down to go into. It really is interesting. I find it really interesting how to improve at this game. While I'm not good, well, I'm not the greatest at this game by any standards, or even in my little area, I'm not the greatest, but I most definitely like to analyze the game and improve at it. Honestly, just be a student of Smash Bros. It's a fun kind of process that I like to go through, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos and VODs trying to learn about stuff like that. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of drop my nuggets of knowledge and wisdom that I learned from playing with the MHK guys, and also talk about Steve a little bit. So we can wrap up that section. I feel pretty satisfied with that one. Yeah, we're going to go into the last little topic I wanted to talk about. After talking about Smash so much, I just want to take a breather and talk about games that I'm playing instead of Smash Bros. Because Ultimate Online still really sucks, and you can only lose to online Zelda for so long before you want to throw a controller. So I play other games instead. And the first one I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about a couple of different games that I've been playing recently, and just talk about my experiences with them, and kind of what drew me to the game, and maybe kind of coerce, maybe try to influence you guys to play these games too. So the first one I want to talk about is Splatoon 2. If you guys have talked to me in recent times, you'll know that I've been kind of talking about Splatoon 2 for a little bit here now, because I think I picked it back up in October. At the start of October, I picked up Splatoon 2 again, and man, I just fell in love with this game once again, because on release day of Splatoon 2, I was grinding that game because I love the original Splatoon so much, and I love Splatoon 2 just as much, and I really enjoy playing that game. And honestly, I would say I'm not half bad at it, so I've been playing that again, and like I mentioned, after picking it up from after so long, because I dropped it back when the last Splatfest happened, I thought there wouldn't be much more support for the game, and I kind of stopped playing, just kind of went to other tasks, and man, after picking it up from so long, I forgot how refreshing that gameplay is. If you're unfamiliar with Splatoon, and specifically Splatoon 2, it is a kind of a team shooter game, but it's a Nintendo shooter. So instead of shooting people with bullets, you're shooting paint. The objective, while yes, shooting your opponents with paint and fragging them is very fun, the main objective is to kind of get the paint on the ground and secure map control for your team, kind of paint the ground more than your opponents. And that's the basic gist of the game. The main modes I've played, because there are different modes and different objectives depending if you're playing just the regular turf war mode, or what I mainly spend my time on, which is ranked mode. And they have like 4, maybe 5 at this point. Yeah, I think it's 5 different rotating game modes in ranked with different objectives. So the most popular one by far is Splat Zones, which is the same idea of getting more paint down, except there's a specific zone you want to capture and you want to keep control of. So kind of like King of the Hill more in the sense in that way. Not to go into all the gritty details, but pretty much in ranked, there's just different objectives, cute objectives like that. And yeah, so I've just been having a blast not relearning the game, because a lot of the basics of the game I still have in my mind, but pretty much getting down to the nitty-gritty meta game of it, because that has changed a fair amount since I've been gone, because there have been a couple of balance patches, even though they said that they would stop support way back when I stopped, but they did throw in a couple more balance patches, because I guess there's just rapid support for this. Well, rapid support in the player side of this game. Like, people love them Splatoon. Yeah, so some guns have gotten better, some guns have gotten worse. And I've just kind of find my groove. I mainly play kind of the basic regular schmegular shooter, but I've just been trying to refine my gameplay. Right now, in the ranked modes, there is a ranked ladder with different rankings, starting with C, going up to B, A, S, S+, and X being the top of the cream of the crop, and I'm sitting pretty in the X rank, and I'm just trying to grind my way up the ladder. You can get top 500, but that's not my goal. I'm just trying to, get myself in rank X, and then see if I can kind of squeeze my way into like the top 1,000 or maybe top 2,000. I don't know. But it's just been really fun to play and kind of play on that hyper competitive level. But, playing Splatoon by myself does make me very sad because I most definitely want to play with like a team or something along those lines. I think, honestly, Splatoon is just scratching my itch for playing a team game, and I'll kind of get more into that later. Kind of the very sad part of me playing Splatoon again, but honestly, it's been a very fun time. Even though solo queue can kind of be, solo queue-y as any solo queue in any game is, it's still just mad fun because the game is just so colorful. You see all these bright neon lights on your monitor, and it's kind of hard to just be sad or be salty, but it most definitely still happens. So going on to the next game that I've been playing instead of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Online is YuGiOh Duel Links. Now this one's I'm a little bit ashamed of because YuGiOh Duel Links, if you're not familiar with Duel Links, because you should be familiar with the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. Duel Links is just the mobile equivalent for Yu-Gi-Oh, except unlike other mobile card games that just take the card game and put it onto the phone, they kind of changed up some of the rules. So instead of having the regular size 5x5 format where you have 5 monster zones and 5 spell and trap card zones, they shrunk the play board, so you can only have 3 monsters on board at a time and 3 spell and trap cards in your back row, and that's kind of simplifying it. But that small change actually changes a lot on how the game is played, and it is interesting, like relearning a whole new metagame, completely separate, completely different from the TCG, and it is a limited format, so not every card ever introduced into Yu-Gi-Oh is in Duel Links. They have about I would say about half the card pool that the TCG has, and it's very refreshing, very interesting to me as a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I would not. It's not the type of game I would suggest, as it is kind of wallet heavy if you want to have fun with it. I've been playing Duel Links for a long time, and how they kind of play, how these free to enter, pay to play games kind of work. When they first come out, they're very free to play friendly, and then as the game lifespan goes on, if the game is growing, they kind of increase and keep adding less and less free to play friendly stuff and adding more pay to play and whale support, all that. So I was lucky that I played the game for a while, and I have a lot of the cards that I want, so I'm still having fun with the game. But if you were to hop into Duel Links, make a fresh new account today, unless you're willing to kind of invest $100 immediately, I wouldn't suggest kind of playing the game. But me personally, if you want to know, I'm actually proud to say that I have never spent a penny on the game. Like I said, I got in very early on the game, so I was able to grind out all the free-to-play gems they give you. And, I'm sitting comfortable with 3, while suboptimal, I have 3 competent decks that can kind of grind you up the ranked ladder, and I've been having fun with that. Just kind of a free-to-play player working in a pay-to-play world, and it's kind of fun seeing it when I kind of frame it like that. But otherwise, it's just something to keep my hands busy because it is a mobile game, so I kind of play that whenever I don't have access to my Switch. Going on to the next game that I play instead of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Online is Teamfight Tactics, actually. So if you are unfamiliar with Teamfight Tactics, it is I guess you could say it's a spin-off of League of Legends, and it's in the auto chess genre, which it lives up to half of that name for the genre. It is very much automatic, as you kind of just put in different pieces and they battle for you automatically. But the chess side, it's a little less like, as TFT works kind of on an RNG system where you get access to purchase units for the kind of like in-game currency. You get to purchase units every round, and you just kind of build up your board going against 7 different players in an all-out free-for-all, matching up with them 1v1 on a random rotating cycle. So it's been pretty fun. I've been just trying to become a student of the TFT game, learn the meta, see what makes things meta. yeah, shout out to Mark Anderson Gaming as he helped me kind of get my feet rolling as you know, getting into the game. It's kind of hard to understand what's all going on and what all is at work there, but he gave me the basic gist and kind of gave me a template and outline to win some games. And then after going on that outline, I've kind of started branching out and trying to figure out for myself how to optimize and play this game really well. And at the moment, I'm only in gold in the ranking system. There's there's iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and I think like master or whatever that tier is called. I'm like middle of the pack is pretty much what I'm trying to say. So still kind of learning the game, learning the ins and outs. And it's a game that's actively patched. So they've recently had a patch. I don't know if it's out yet, but by the time I release this episode, it will have came out. And it changes the meta kind of frequently, which makes it's a blessing and a curse, because it's nice to not have stale metas where you're building the same team because it's meta. But at the same time, it makes me have to relearn the meta, see which teams are good and all that. But yeah, I enjoy it all the less. But with that divert out the way, I'll talk about another game I've been enjoying a lot recently. If you're friends with me on Switch, maybe you've seen me been playing this a little bit, and that's Pokemon Shield. The Generation 8 of Pokemon games, Pokemon Sword and Shield, recently got their second DLC expansion dropped, the Crown Tundra it is named, and it introduces a lot of cool stuff into the game. A lot of the older Pokemon that were previously cut, all of the legendary Pokemon are back and available to catch, and it's just kind of been a blast going through the Crown Tundra story. And I've been working my way up to Dynamax Adventures, but from kind of the Twitter sphere of Pokemon, they calculated it out, and there's a 1 in 300 odds of getting a shiny, and like the new Dynamax Adventures that was introduced in the Crown Tundra. If you are unaware of what shiny Pokemon are, they're just kind of palette swaps of a Pokemon, and they have somewhat rarity, but like the fact that you could get one with like a 1 in 300 odds, it's just like really good. And I kind of want to get a shiny Pokemon because it's so easy relatively speaking, because usually the odds are like in the 8,000s and the 1 in 8,000s, 1 in 7,000s. I forget what it specifically is in this generation, but now with the Dynamax Adventures, shiny Pokemon are much more readily accessible. But there's an item in the game called the Shiny Charm, which increases your shiny odds. I don't know the exact value, but it increases your shiny odds in everything you do. So every Pokemon you encounter, it has a better chance of being shiny. And that item, in tandem with the already good rates in the Dynamax Adventures, they've worked it out to be around 1 in 100. Every 1 in 100 Pokemon will be shiny in the Dynamax Adventures. And since you get up to 4 different Pokemon in the Dynamax Adventures, theoretically, you have 1 in 25 chance of getting a shiny Pokemon. So I went out of my way. Instead of playing through the Crown Tundra, I actually went out of my way to kind of obtain the Shiny Charm. And to do that, you have to complete the Pokedex, pretty much register all 400 Pokemon in the base game. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of weeks. So I haven't actually finished the Crown Tundra story because I was like, I need to do this a little aside before I kind of continue on with this so that I can kind of hunt these shiny Pokemon. And yeah, I'm going to be kind of flexing my shiny Pokemon here soon. So go ahead and follow me on that Twitter so you can see which Pokemon I decide to shiny hunt, which ones I get. It's going to be a very fun time. And honestly, if you also have Pokemon Sword or Shield in the Crown Tundra, feel free to hit me up. I'm down to do some Dynamax Adventures. I guess by the time this releases, I've already completed the Pokedex. So by the time this releases, I should either be done with the Crown Tundra story or at a point where I'm just grinding Dynamax Adventures. So yeah, feel free to hit me up, and I'm down to play some Dynamax Adventures, grind for some shiny legendary Pokemon. Yeah, I'm so hyped to kind of get started with that. So moving on to the next game, though, we have Overwatch. Yeah, I've been playing Overwatch, but hopefully I don't make you cringe into a different dimension, but I've been playing Overwatch on the Switch. On the Nintendo Switch, I've been playing Overwatch, and oh man, it is an experience. Like I mentioned, that team game itch, yeah, this is where it comes back up. I've been playing Overwatch on the Nintendo Switch really I've only been playing it for a couple of reasons. One of them, it's kind of ironically because like it's Overwatch on Switch. The textures, they're not optimized for, the low power Switch, and sometimes it does not look like a great game. It looks pretty bad sometimes. Honestly, it still is Overwatch, so it's kind of fun to play around. And also, like, on the Switch, I hope, I don't think I'm going to be offending anybody, but the overall skill cap is much lower, so you can kind of just do what you want, and it's a lot more fun. I wouldn't say a lot more fun because at the moment I can't play Overwatch on a better platform, but honestly, it's been fun to play it. At first I played it for, ironic reasons. That's why I initially played it. But the more I've been playing it, the more I just want to keep playing because it's just fun messing with the Switch player base. And I actually recently unlocked competitive. Like, that's how little I played. I wasn't even level 25 when I first started. So I had to grind to level 25 and then competitive unlocked. And then I started playing competitive. And here's a little fun fact. On the Nintendo Switch, since Overwatch is not crossplay, Nintendo Switch has its own kind of region of Overwatch ranked, and top 500 is around diamond level. So that's fun. I actually could grind. I don't know if I will. I maybe will because it's like really close. I may grind to get top 500 on Overwatch Switch, and that would be such a funny accomplishment to have under my belt. I think I'm going to go for it. But yeah, if you're unfamiliar with the Overwatch ranking system, it's like most video game ranking systems. It's, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, then master. But on the Switch, I don't think there's any master level players. So top 500 is just in the diamond rank, and nobody is even at the master rank, which is hilarious. So like multiple times I've been matched with top 500 players. Like, I'm constantly in top 500 lobbies. Well, there is role queue, so my tank class is in top 500 lobbies, and my support class, I'm sometimes in top 500 lobbies. I'm not that good at damage, especially on the Switch. Yeah, I'm just way too clunky to be good at that. But I actually have a real chance of being top 500 on the Switch in the tank class. I don't know. It's just really fun. But yeah, that kind of wraps it up in terms of different flavor of games I've been playing. So any games you play, go ahead and comment down below. Have any choice words for what I've been doing with my time recently, feel free to comment below or hit me up on Twitter. Like I said, I'm always down to discuss. Honestly, discussing is one of my favorite things. That's why I started up the podcast. That's why I commentate Smash Bros. It's why I do a lot of things. So with that being said, as I'm wrapping this episode up, I'll remind you once again to follow me at @thebiggestm on twitter.com, and leave a like on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe so you can see the next episode. And if you're watching on Apple Podcasts, leave that 5-star rating to get my dopamine running, or follow the podcast if you're listening on Spotify. With all that wrapped up, I hope to hear you guys in the next couple of weeks. Until next time, this is BigM